You don't need a sales call to close high ticket. You never did. I closed $2,000 to $10,000 clients from my phone in the DMs without ever needing to get on a call, and I've done this for over 7 years now. Every guru sold you the same thing, right? Get them on a call. So that's what you do. You drop a booking link, you send a calendar, and then your week fills up with a bunch of no-shows and like, hey, something came up, right? Half people don't book, and then half that do book don't actually show. And those that do show, they like got to think about it, right? That's not a sales process. That's us chasing. And here's what nobody told you. The call was never the close. The call was just the place that you finally said the thing that you should have said 3 messages ago. The close doesn't actually happen on the call. The close happens upstream. And all problems come upstream, and so does every sale. Two people selling the same offer, same $4,000 price point. First one drops a link in the second message and says, hey, check this out, and then gets left on red. Second one never sends the link, never asks for a call. She asks one question: what have you tried so far? And then another one, and then another one. And then 40 minutes later, the lead is asking, okay, how do I pay you? Same offer, same price point, one pitched, one asked. That's the whole game. Because nobody gets sold on a call. They get sold by the right message at the right stage in the right order. Send stage 5 at stage 2, and then you're done, right? No call is going to save that at that point. I'm not a coach. I'm not here to hype you up. I'm a consultant, so I'm handing you the exact script, word for word, copy paste, the 7 stages that take a total stranger from like, hey, I saw your post, to like, do you want to use the card or PayPal, without a single phone call, right? Open, qualify, find the gap, and then the 4 moves that almost nobody makes, the ones that actually do the closing, right? By the end of this video, you're going to run a lead the way that I run mine. No call, no pressure, just the right message, landing at the right moment until the buying is basically the next step. So grab a pen, let's get into it right now. So the title of today's presentation is going to be the exact DM script that closes high ticket, the full word for word flow. And so I'm going to show you the exact stages that I take people through whenever I'm closing in the DMs. So that way you can, take that and run with it if that's what you so choose, right? That being said, the promise here, like I said, the exact messages I send to close 2 to 10K clients, no pressures, no sales calls, right? Just the right message at the right stage. And you'll be able to, walk away with this video today and be able to model your own version of it as well. So here's what you're going to learn, the plan. Number 1, the full 7-stage script, open to close in order from start to finish, right? Number 2, the exact words to send, copy paste, you can make them yours. Number 3, you're going to get why each message works. So that way you can adapt and not just like parrot and copy exactly why, like what I'm doing, right? Or what I'm saying. And then how to actually close through the call. So we're going to cover in this video specifically just the high level stages, but I have other videos where I cover more in depth how to overcome objections and different things like that. So I'm going to point you to those videos as we get to the sections. But let's just start with number 1 and we will go from there. Before we start, a script is a flow, not a robot. Okay, so you have a brain. You're someone that's thinking, right? You're not an automation, and you can think for yourself. So remember that this process here is not us parroting and not us just like copy pasting messages, right? It's a flow. It's a structure. So don't memorize the lines. I want you to learn the stages, know what each message is for, know which stage is happening, right? And then that way you can say it in your own words or adapt it to your offer as we go, right? So really important here before we start. That being said, let's go over the script and the 7 stages, right? So number 1, we have the open. Number 2 is the qualify. Number 3, find the gap. Number 4, get the yes to the help. Number 5, we have the pre-offer and the offer. Number 6, we're going to give answers and give value. And then number 7, that's basically the close, right? So stage number 1. The first part called the open. We're going to get the yes to actually ask. So really important here. A lot of people will start the selling process or start a sales process with someone and they haven't actually earned the right to start that process, right? And then the worst thing ever is that if someone doesn't really understand what's happening, and that's usually a lot of the problems that I see in sales processes when I audit them for coaches and consultants, is that they transition someone into the sales process without actually like formally doing it, right? So they start asking them questions and stuff like that and qualifying questions and everything very, very quickly. And the problem is if you don't actually soften it with this phase right here where you get their permission, then what's going to happen later is you're going to end up dropping a video or you're going to end up showing your offer to this person. And then they're going to say something like, ah, man, we were just having a conversation. I'm not really ready for all this, da, 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 right? All kinds of stuff. So just this part right here will help a ton where like someone is very clear to them that that we want to try to help them and that we're starting the qualifying process. Okay. So stage one, open to get the ask what you send. So it's like, hey, name, glad you reached out about this. I just want to make sure that I can actually help. So is it cool if I ask you a couple quick questions? Right? This is not a pitch. This is not small talk. This is a small, easy yes that gets you the permission to start qualifying them. And that yes kind of quietly sets the frame for you to lead the conversation forward. Stage number two, we're going to start the qualifying process. Okay. So qualifying in this case can mean a bunch of different things depending on what you're selling, right? I don't know what you guys are selling, but obviously, super easy one is, they got to be at least financially qualified to buy your offer, right? That being said, so when you start the qualifying phase, in my opinion, right, the most important things and what we've seen from our accounts is we want to determine a few different things, right? We want to find out their experience level, like how much money they make, what kind of occupation or things they've tried, and different things like that, right? So the qualifying process is really just us building a really good profile of someone, so that way we can really understand who we're talking to, right? So, if you're a coach that helps, people learn how to speak Chinese, right? Then, every person you're talking to, you're going to probably want to know what's their experience level with Chinese. Have they tried anything before? Have they haven't, right? Have they ever invested in Chinese courses or anything to learn it before? And so like a lot of these things that we're going to go through whenever we're learning information or getting information from the prospect is obviously qualifying from their offer, but it's really for us to understand more about who the person we're talking to, right? So, what you're going to send is something like, nice. So, just curious, what have you tried so far to learn Chinese, right? Let's just say that's the thing. And so they're going to now start answering questions, stuff like that. And this qualifying phase right here is multiple questions, right? So I gave you the first one right here, but there's going to be multiple questions that you're going to ask, right? Maybe you want to know, maybe they say something here that makes you want to dig deeper. So for example, they could say, yeah, I've tried Chinese lessons before, but they didn't really turn out that well, right? Well, that's a great time for us to ask more information about that, thing that didn't go well with their Chinese classes, right? So the qualifying phase is like I said, don't think of it like checking check boxes and saying, oh, I got this. Think about it like really understanding the person, understanding who we're talking to, so that way we can see what's going to be relevant to them later in the process. Okay. So for high ticket stuff, obviously, first, can they actually buy? Are they a fit? Are they someone that the offer is actually built for, right? Number two, is their ability to pay realistic, right? So, in the cases of like business offers, right? Somebody who's not making money cannot really buy your business coaching offer, right? So it's very tough for them to do so. Versus like someone who's, got a 7-figure business, like they can afford to buy business coaching because they have that discretionary budget, right? So we got to understand, and that's why I was talking before about building a full client profile of someone, is because you got to really understand this part as well. And so like in the case of like learning Chinese, maybe it's like people who have a good job, right? People that generally speaking have an income would be able to afford your Chinese classes. So anyway, right? So but you wouldn't know to get that information unless you actually like qualified them and took them through that process. Okay. Readiness. This is really important, right? You want to find out like, do they have a burning desire today? Right? Because if someone doesn't have a burning desire right this second, then we need to figure out how to make it a burning desire to make them more likely to purchase soon, right? And this is the really big case with like, if you're, let's say you're like a real estate agent or something like that watching this right now, right? You would probably have some situations like this where you might have someone who's interested in selling their house, but maybe not today, right? Well, it's like, cool, like that. It's awesome. I'll keep talking to you because you obviously may want to do it someday, but someday doesn't help me now. So I want to spend more time with people who like, want to do stuff now. Right. So super important. Now we go into stage 3, which is find the gap. Right. And really important with the gap is we're basically, the way that I show this whenever I do other presentations is like the person that we're talking to, they have a big frowny face on their face right now. Right? Just think about it like that. And the frowny face, like we don't know why they have the frowny face. We don't know like why, like what has made them unhappy or what their experiences has been. But generally speaking, the reason that they're talking to us about something that we have to sell or something that we have to offer the market is because they have a problem that we can solve. Right? So that's what I mean by finding the gap, right? We want to find out like why do they have the frowny face? Like what's going on there? And then how or what's gonna help them get a smiley face, right? And so first things first is we want to uncover what it is. So the message that we're going to send is something like, got it. So where are you right now with this, and where do you want to be in the next 90 days? Now, I left this kind of vague, obviously, for the sake of the template, but for the sake of what we talked about earlier on the example of learning Chinese, we'd be like, got it. So where are you right now with learning Chinese, and where would you want to be in the next 90 days? And maybe they've had some lessons, and then in the next 90 days, they want to be like conversationally fluent, right? Like good information. But this finding the gap is very important, because now you're going to be able to find out where our leverage points are, right? So an additional question you want to know in the gap is like, hey, like, okay, you told me that you want to become conversationally fluent in the next 90 days. Like, wow, right? And maybe the answer is that they're traveling and they're going to be in the country, and so they want to be able to speak. Or maybe they have a loved one or a relationship or something going on, they want to be able to talk, right? I don't know what the goal is, but you see where like all of these different points that we can uncover from finding the gap is going to help us uncover their pain, and then that pain is what we leverage later to actually make the sale, right? Okay, so now we go in stage 4. So once we've uncovered and got the gap, right, then we're going to actually get to stage 4, which is get the yes to help, right? And super important here to point out, and super important for everyone watching as well, permission is super important, right? I know I said super important like 5 times, but I want to make sure that you really get it. Permission is very, very important. So stage 4 is about getting permission for us to start pitching them, right? Or us to give them the pitch. So before we do anything, we're not going to send them a video, we're not going to send them a document, we're not going to anything. We're saying, hey, something like, makes sense. Would you like some help with getting X solved? So in the case of before, where we're talking about the gap, right? Maybe their gap is that they want to be able to be conversationally fluent because they have a trip coming up, right? It's like, hey, would you like some help? Would you like some help making sure that you're able to reach your goal of becoming conversationally fluent in the next 90 days? Right now, this is not a pitch at this phase, right? We're just saying if they're open to receiving the offer, right, or open to receiving or open to seeing something about getting help. Okay, and some people are going to say no to this, right? But obviously, in this scenario, where they're going to say yes, and then we get to stage 5, which is the pre-offer and the offer. Okay, so what is the pre-offer and the offer? So just like we asked them if they wanted help, right? Now, before we send them the offer, we need to give them a little bit of a primer, which I call the pre-offer, right? And so it's something like, hey, I actually run something for people just like you, and I think you'd be a great fit. Is it cool if I send you a quick video on how it works, right? So we can make this more specific. Obviously, it's vague for the sakes and purposes of the template and example, but how we customize it for, like, let's say a business coach, or let's say it's a business coach that helps real estate agents, right? It's like, I actually run a group for people just like you, or real estate agents just like you. Or it'd be like, I actually run something for a handful of real estate agents who want to make 6 figures this year. I think you'd be a great fit. Cool if I send you a quick video on how it works, right? So we want to customize a pre-offer, but essentially we're getting permission. So we asked them if they wanted help right before this, right? Now we're getting permission to send them the video, a link, right? And then once they say yes, we will actually send them the offer. So in this case, we're going to send a VSL, right? And this could be a Google Doc. You can swap out what kind of asset you send out here, right? I personally recommend a VSL, but if you wanted to go with a Google Doc, this would be a great place as well, right? We send the Google Doc, boom. Now, and once we drop the link, we say something like, watch this from start to finish, and then hit me back if you're in or out, or if you have any questions. And if it was a video, then if it was a document, then we would say, hey, read this from start to finish, and then hit me out if you're in, out, or have any questions, right? So we go from the pre-offer to the offer. Now, once they see the offer, then we get to stage 6, right? Which is, now they're either going to say one of 3 options based on what we said on that last stage, right? They're either going to say they're in, they're going to say they're out, or they're going to have questions. And at this phase, I'm going to assume that they're probably going to have questions, because I would say 90% of the leads do. Now, are you going to have people that don't have questions here and are ready to be closed immediately? 100% it happens. They're like, yep, I get it. I'm in, I'm ready to go. Be able to get them a payment link right there in chat, and they just went through. Amazing, right? Now, that's a small number of the cases. In most cases, they usually have a question about the offer. They have a clarification. And usually the higher ticket your thing is, the more questions that come up here, right? And you should expect the questions. Now, if you're selling a lower ticket offer, the DMs, and you run it through that process, right, you're not going to have very many questions. People are just going to take it, and it's boom, it's going to be going, right? But generally speaking, as the price point goes up for the price point of what you're selling, then you have more objections and more clarifications, just the nature of spending more money, right? So stage number 6 is answering and clarifying. So it'd be like, so let's say they said something, they're curious about what all the stuff they get, right, in the program. It's like, yeah, you get this, you get the modules, you get the community, you get the app, and plus XYZ support. And then if you want one-on-one, that's a VIP option and it costs more. Did that cover it? So really important first, before you actually start hardly overcoming people's objections or like really like pushing, is making sure that all of their questions are answered. I've seen this done incorrectly a lot of times with tons of creators where we feel like we need to overcome the objection first. And it's not that. So the first thing we want to make sure of is that, are we on the same page? So do I understand that this product can help the prospect as much as the prospect understands that it can help them? And what I mean by that is that if they don't fully see the value yet, then it becomes hard for me to overcome the objection fully, right? So most people start applying pressure too early. We don't want to apply pressure early. We want to clarify first, like make sure they get all the questions out and they see how it works, the process, everything. And then once they have gotten through that part, then we apply pressure, or we're allowed to, I should say, but not before. So really important. Now, where does proof go in all of this, right? So don't lead with the testimonials, because like proof before they actually care just comes off as browsing, right? Now, proof after the gap is actually helpful. And then proof to their specific situation is even more helpful, because one thing, like one case study or result that we can show from our clients or things that we've done that matches the exact need that they need is going to beat a bunch of generic screenshots 100% of the time, right? So stage number 7, once we've like got through the answering objections and clarifying and making sure that we've gotten through that, right? Then we're going to go to the close. Now, the close is really simple, right? We're basically like, awesome. So does everything about the process make sense? Or are you ready to get started? Okay. So again, right? We want to fully confirm. We want to like allow the option for a client to say that they have more questions, right? Because that is possible. But whenever we're ready to start moving them forward, we always want to start saying, we always want to use the phrase, are you ready to get started? Are you ready to move forward? Are you ready to sign up? Are you ready to, start the enrollment process? Anything like that, right? So that's us moving it forward to the next step towards the close. Okay. Now, the moment of truth, right? Like, if they actually ask what the price is, I want you to say the price like it's nothing, right? So don't flinch at it, right? So if someone says, how much is it, right? It's $4,000 to get started. That's get you blah, 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 right? And what's key with the price is if we don't state it, then it seems like we're hiding, right? So it's really important for you to just state the price point, even after they see the VSL, right? So if they ask, what was the price again? Hey, it's $4,000 to get started, and that gets you the exact outcome that we promise inside of your offer, right? So don't flinch, right? And don't hesitate and anything like that whenever they say it, right? Just go ahead and go for it, right? Don't over-explain. So don't try to over-justify. Don't send a big wall of text after you've explained the price point, right? You're going to let it sit. And we want to always anchor to an outcome, right? So it's not just that the price is this, it's the price is this, and it gets you X, right? Or it gets you XYZ. And the more outcome focused the language there, the better. And what I mean by that is people don't really care about the benefits and features. They don't care about the modules and all that stuff. Like all that stuff is cool, and they care about it later from like a technical standpoint. But like what people care more about is like what's on the other side, or like what's the thing that they're getting on the other side of this, right? Now, really key, and this you notice that right here at the close, but I want to point it out, right? Before we ask for the sale, before we move it forward, like before we can actually close, we want to do what we call a double confirmation first. And in the close in this case is when we send someone a payment link, right? We never want to just drop someone a payment link, even if they say that they got all their questions and answers and anything like that. Like, we don't want to just drop it, right? We want to first do a double confirmation first. Hey, does everything make sense? Or is there anything you want me to clear up first before we get started, right? This surfaces any like last minute resistance, any doubt or anything before you close. So that way you never have to like ask for money like into an unspoken objection, right? And so this is the key part. Now, let's walk through the script kind of like at a high level so you can kind of see what it looks like back so far, right? So it's like, hey, glad you reached out, Sarah. Cool if I ask you a couple quick questions. And she's like, yeah, for sure. And it's like, awesome. What have you tried so far? Mostly posting. I went 10K months, but not a close. Would you like some help with that? And she's like, yes, right? So obviously your script is going to look different, and this is a very high level version, but every single part is us, asking them for their information, and you notice that we're getting a very full like idea and picture of this person, especially as we work through the script from top to bottom. Okay, so a couple things with handling objections, right? So when they say it's too much, so this is like us handling the money objection, right? So they say, hey, that's a bit out of my budget, and this is specific after they've seen the VSL, right? We want to say this, and this is a line that works for us. I'm going to tell you the exact reasonings, justifications, and you can do with that what you will, right? But we would say something like, I hear you, and we do have more affordable options available as well. But before we get into that, does everything about the process make sense, or do you have any questions for me? Because the reality is that if someone has just seen the offer and then they drop that it's out of their budget, a lot of times it's not necessarily out of their budget. It's that they don't see the full value, so they won't move their money around to purchase it right this second until we clarify a couple things or make them see the value, essentially, right? So a lot of that comes down to clarifying and making sure they see the value, right? So that's how we handle the money ejection first. Now, it could legitimately be money, and then in which case we will give them a payment plan and stuff like that, but we won't go about that first. We will first make sure that they understand the value, clarify the offer, see that they understand everything, and then we can go into a financing offer where we offer a payment plan or something like that, right? The second one is let me think about it, right? So them say, hey, I'm interested, but let me think on it and get back with you, right? The best response is something like this, right? You can tweak it however you want, but usually, the response is usually when someone says that, there's a couple things they're still unsure about. What's the part you want to be sure on? So when someone says they're going to think about it, right? The reality is that they're thinking about stuff that they have objections on or they're unsure about. So if we can uncover them right then and get them to share it, then that helps us with that process, right? But if we just let them go and say, yeah, think on it and get back with me, like that's not going to help, because that's going to be whenever we go let them think about it, they have options to go talk to other people, and then there's other things that can happen. Like they could talk to their wife, or they could talk to their friend or whatever, get different opinions. And so now you have all these additional inputs onto something. And that's cool. Like I want them to consult if they feel like they need to at some point, right? But we should never just like let them go. We want to make sure that we give them all the information from us. And if they need to consult it with someone else later, we can make sure that we've given them all the information first beforehand. We don't want them to go talk to someone and then come back to us and start like picking us apart or whatever, right? So that's not a good method. But that's how we handle let me think about it, right? So why does this whole thing work? Or why does it work? Why this closes high ticket without a call is because the video that we use does the selling. So we have a conversation that acts as the discovery call, right? So that is us kind of understanding and doing the discovery, which would be in a 2-call system, first call, right? And then the second call is essentially the video, right? So we took basically an appointment setting process and we split it in half, and we said, okay, cool, let's do the first half in the DMs and the second half in the DMs, right? And the video does all the selling in this case, right? So we're not worried about sending long paragraphs or like trying to overcome objections or anything until after they've already seen the sales asset. So the video is the thing that sells the thing, and the DMs kind of build the trust, right? So by the time the price comes, buying is just a natural next step of the relationship. It's not a leap of faith on Zoom because they've been having a chat with us like maybe over 3 hours or 6 hours or a couple of days at this point in the DMs, right? So that's why it works really well. Now, don't break the script, okay? And here's the 3 things that kill it. If you pitch before stage 4, you don't get permission. It's very pushy. They ghost. Walls of text, not going to work super good. Big blocks of text don't get read. Keep it line by line. And when I say line by line, I mean literally line by line, right? So if you had a paragraph that you were sending someone, I would send, and there was like 3 lines in it, I would send the 3 lines. I wouldn't send the paragraph. Okay. And then number 3 is, dodging or burying the price, right? If you dodge it or bury the price, it's like after the offer has been seen, then it just basically causes confusion and different things like that, right? So just don't do that. Key with this is speed is the multiplier, okay? First to reply wins. You're going to get 3 to 5x more calls, more clients booked, more sales whenever you reply in seconds, not hours, okay? And 98% of DMs get open, but the hot window closes really fast, okay? So, remember that whenever you're chatting with people, right? Like when they DM you, they're right in the moment, they're ready to have a conversation, right? Otherwise they wouldn't have DM'd you. So if we can be with them right there, that's going to be key. So speed to reply is very king with these systems. So I want you to make this system yours, right? I want you to make that process. So, adapt it to your offer. Obviously you got to, swap outcome, you got to swap the pain, you got to swap the proof, and just kind of, move around all of these pieces and change up your script to make it work, but you've got now the skeleton and the structure to do so, right? And don't skip this. And most closes happen in the follow up, right? So over half the conversations die after a second message, not because they said no, because no one followed up, right? So make sure to give value, not guilt. 3 to 7 touches. If they're at a VSL or if they've seen an offer, definitely 7 touches, right? I've made another video about follow-up, so you can go check that out at another phase. But yes, make sure you follow up and use automation in your advantage to be able to follow up with this person, right? So, there's GHL, there's ManyChat. If you don't have any of those yet, then I'll put some links down below so you can, sign up. But use some automation to help you with this, right? Don't feel like you have to do it 100% manually. Now, recap. If you remember these 3 things, it's going to be really good for you in implementing this process. So number 1, it's a flow, not line. So you're going to learn the stages, learn why we do them in the flow, and then you're going to do it your way, but you're going to follow our structure. Okay. Number 2, you're going to ask permission before you present, right? The yes to getting permission will make the offer welcome. If you don't get permission first, then you're not going to get a welcome reply. And then number 3, you're going to close by guiding, not by pushing. You're going to, state the price. You're going to offer them choices. You're going to clarify, and then you're going to let them basically make these decisions along the way. And you'll notice that as you go through this process, they are saying yes to every single step, right? So the process feels very, very organic, and it's something that works really very well. So what's your homework, right? You're going to do this today. Number 1, you're going to write all your versions of these stages, okay? So you're going to write your scripts for kind of the process you want to take them through, the additional questions that you want to ask, right? Save them all as quick replies or notes in a Google Doc or a script document, right? And then you're going to run a lead through this entire flow. So you don't need a call, you need a script. So I do these videos every single week. If you want to subscribe, you're going to get some more breakdowns. If you're interested in finding out more about scripting and stuff like that, if you just hit up my DMs on Instagram, just message me the word DMs and I'll hit you up with some script packs that we've come up with over time that can be pretty useful for you. So hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.